in the heart of Missouri, where the rivers run.
Welcome back to the number one show here on SR1 Sundays, St. Charles Patriot Radio, known as God's Country. And I think our first guest will agree with me. We got Eric Michael running the boards, Nick Schroer, St. Charles County District 2 in the Missouri Senate. And we've got a guy outside of my district, but still in my heart. He's here with me, Justin Faust. He's all over the place, Ward 6 councilman for St. Charles City. We're going to get to what that covers. Just voted unanimously the councilman vice president. And always, he's wearing pants just like Jake at State Farm because he's got his own agency. If you need insurance, we'll give him plenty of time to give all the socials and everything. But Justin, thanks for spending our first segment here on St. Charles Patriot Radio with us.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys having me. I guess, was Tom Shaw Jr. too busy to do this? Is that why you went down the list for me?
We've lost Tom Shaw somewhere. We don't know where he is. Hopefully we can find him for next week.
He's wandering around. You know that.
Well, I know he's getting ready for Oktoberfest, which is just months away. And that's one of the biggest events that, I saw you on the news last year talking about how important it is. And with German heritage, it's very important to me as well. Any big updates on when we can expect all of the balls moving and all of the new details coming out about this year's Oktoberfest?
Yeah, we're excited. This is our 40th anniversary for St. Charles Oktoberfest. Like I mentioned before, this is 100% nonprofit. The groups that help run this festival, all the people you see pouring beer, picking up trash, those are all nonprofits. And I think the Oktoberfest probably gives back roughly around $250,000 annual to all these groups. It's a perfect storm of volunteers, and we make it a fun event. So our 40th anniversary is something special, and there's actually a lot that we need to probably cover on that. That might be another show, but there is a Maybaum pole that's called the Legacy Maybaum pole that's going to be going up in Frontier Park September 18th, which we would love to have you part of that. It's going to be a new landmark in St. Charles. Myself and my dad, Dan Faust, have led this effort. It was a vision 40 years ago by Joe Doss, the founder of St. Charles Sister Cities. And I got a wild hair and said, I'm going to take this on 2 years ago. We're making it happen. So it's going to be a really, really awesome event down in Frontier Park where people, visitors, tourism can enjoy.
Well, I'm really excited about what's happening. We've got 4th of July coming up, the 250th anniversary of this nation. Both of our districts are very, very unique and very historic in St. Charles County. But yours, you've got, a big event coming through. Just tell people what's happening in terms of Independence Day, what they can expect around the 250th, and the confines, the boundaries of your district, because it changes, with all the redistricting that's happened. Just give people an idea of where you represent, and then we can go into Independence Day.
Yep, perfect. And so right now I cover from Zumbel, so a little past Zumbel on the Walmart side, so all the way to Hawks Nest, now Punman Parkway. I cover that all the way to Cave Springs on the, what would you call that, the south side. And if you go from the north side from Zumbel, I cover by like Carrollton Bank all the way up to Bowie Funeral Homes area. So, and then I go all the way to 370, where the famous data center was trying to go. So, yeah. So we have a lot going on. I'll tell you, in the 4 years that I've been a council member, there's a lot happening. You have the old Broths lot that's been sitting vacant for many years off the service road. The Clement Auto Dealership invested a lot of money and energy to make that place look very, very good. So they got the new service center, and then you can go where the old Red Roof Inn at. It used to be not a very good eyesight. And now you got Chick-fil-A, Chipotle, Jersey Mike's. There's a lot of good stuff on there.
Minchie's is one of my daughter's favorites.
There you go, right? So and we got that. So there's a lot of good things happening. But, we're open for business no matter what people say.
Yeah, and that new Clement is right next to, I think, a really cool State Farm dealership. Am I correct?
Yeah, right down. I'm surprised they haven't tried to push me out and buy me out yet. So, but I'm not going anywhere. It's a great spot. It's in my ward. That was something that when I ran for office, I live 2 minutes from my office. Obviously I have to live in my ward to be a council member, but having my business in my ward and investing back in the community, that was a big part. So I'm happy where I am.
Well, you just said, you're not going anywhere. I don't think you're going to be going anywhere for quite some time, because what you guys just did, you mentioned the data center. What you guys just did over the past year, it's exactly what grassroots politics should be about. I know this came to your attention. You and I spoke about it. Neither one of us really knew all the details about this. You had non-disclosures going around, but you listened to the people and you stopped a data center from coming in. But
Yep.
then you went even further. Tell us about what you guys just did in a historic move in the St. Charles City Council in prohibiting data centers being implemented in any future, I guess, any future year.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I take this position, I think like a little bit like you do, is I like to be proactive, not reactive. The data center coming in was something that we were all trying to react to. It put us all in a situation of not knowing what's going to happen. What is this? I had a lady that right behind this proposal, there's a 55 and older subdivision, about three of them. They're all worried. They called me and they literally said, "Justin, we trust you. What is going on?" And I said, let me do my research, and I promise you I'll do the right thing. I've never let you down. I didn't tell her I was going to be a yes vote or no vote.
Yeah.
And that frustrated people. But once the applicant puts something in, it's my job to do the best for the residents of St. Charles and make sure if there's a deal going through, it's the best deal. And we went along with this for a long time. And there was a lot of back and forth. And at realization, we just found out that it was not going to be a great deal for the city of St. Charles. And when you were born and raised like myself in St. Charles, you know a little bit of everybody. And I could not go I have Democrat friends, Republican friends, independents. There's not too many people I know that came up to me and said, man, we really need this data center. It was the opposite. So when I'm going to Tubby's and Maddenley's and being out there in the community, everywhere I went for the last year before the decision, it was hard. This is not good for our community. And that's who I represent. I represent the residents of St. Charles and Ward 6 especially. So, but to go even further about the decision. So, when the applicant pulled the bill, there's some council members and myself asked staff to really focus on putting a moratorium together to just slow this down, put a 1-year ban on data centers in St. Charles so we can understand a little bit more before anything goes through. So we did that. We actually, record time, our attorney and code enforcement, they did all the work. And I appreciate our administration and staff. I left after that meeting and went out of town, and they called me and said, would you be okay with a special session and come back in town? And I did. And there was a couple of us at that. And that was a big deal. That was a council-led decision that did that. And so during that time, that 1 year, I started doing more research. And we realized that we do not think that putting something over our wellhead district is going to be a positive thing for city of St. Charles and the infrastructure. So we went a little further and, we asked staff to really look at putting how do we ban something in St. Charles like this? And they got real creative with the words and, separating the warehouse and the data centers and not having the data center in our code. So kudos to them. And I appreciate our staff, the fellow council members getting behind this because I think it's good for St. Charles.
When you're talking to a lot of the constituents that had concerns about this, whether it was last year or leading up to the vote that you just had a couple days ago, what were some of their concerns with having a data center there? Because I've got relatives that live right next to where the proposal was, and you've already got issues with vinyl chloride in the water. I know you guys are trying to get that under control, but what was like the top couple issues that the constituents, right, left, right down in the middle, shared about these data centers?
Number one issue was transparency. And when I've talked to this group from the very beginning, and you understand, I got in way late in the game. There's people behind the scenes, economic development teams and all that are trying to bring stuff to the city, regional, county, state, all that. And so when it finally got to us, I really want to be involved. And I was very honest, said, you have to be transparent with what you plan on doing and what you're how it benefits the city of St. Charles and the residents. And then we found out it's going to be over the wellhead district. And that obviously is a contaminated area right now that we're battling issues with that right now. That was the number one issue from our residents of saying, why in the world? And I still ask this question, of all the places, why did they choose that site? And I understand that they can pull power and pull water, but I just didn't think that was a very smart move. And so when we went a little further, where else in St. Charles could this really go? And so, it's not just about Ward 6. I mean, I want to protect my ward, but there's really no other areas we would like to have this. We have a whole bunch of residentials surround the whole city of St. Charles. It's not fair to say not in Ward 6 and go over to Ward 1, 2, or something like that. So I think we made a good decision, but infrastructure, the power, the grid, right? But the number one thing was transparency and protecting our wellhead. That was a number one, 1A and 1B.
Any blowback so far? Because typically with a lot of these issues, you've got a lot on one side, a lot on the other. I know the hearings that happened last year, you had a ton of people coming out on each side, but I think the longer that this thing was debated, more of them, at least in my view, more of them went to the anti-data center in St. Charles County. And I've talked to people saying, look, not here in St. Charles County, in St. Charles City. If you want to go do it in a rural part that, nobody's around, you can connect to the river, that's fine. But have you had any people on the other side saying, wait a second, what you're doing is wrong?
Very few emails. Okay. And after we did our big town hall at the Foundry Arts Center, when they were able to present their case to the residents and went around, more people left that meeting saying they didn't tell us any information. And I felt the same way. I was there as a resident and a member of the city council to just listen. I did not go in these group meetings and say, I'm voting against this. I was there to listen. And I heard every single person walk out that door. This was absolutely worthless. And I feel like they knew the wheels were falling off at a rapid pace. And they went and they tried to call all their partners and to reach out to council members. And that's where we had a lot of construction workers, the laborers. I get supported by many, many laborers. They helped my campaign. But like I told the labor union, and they understood. I said, why did you guys come in a week or two before a vote and have an opinion on this now, right? And I said, they should have brought you guys in. They should have brought city council, our residents. They should have brought all the partners in ahead of time and been transparent. And then we could have one voice and tell her, like, this is why they think it's a good idea being in St. Charles. They didn't do that. And so, like I tell, we're open for business. St. Charles is, a gateway where businesses are coming in. We got a lot of stuff going on. So the people who said this was just a knee-jerk reaction, that's further from the truth. We literally went through it for about a year. We've had 600 people at the convention center, both sides, very heated arguments. Our family lives it. So this was not a knee-jerk reaction. This was representing our citizens. And I think we did the right thing.
Yeah, I know personally that you and I have been talking about this thing for over a year. And I know many of my friends and family that live in your district and live in your ward, they've been talking to you, and you went from, having the cojones to say, I don't know enough about this thing. Let me do some digging. You went up against the non-disclosure agreements, which hopefully we can address on a statewide level, but then actually got a lot of that information, harnessed all of the people within your community, got elected as the vice chairman. And this is one of the boldest moves, whether you like it or not. This is one of the boldest moves I have seen from a city. So kudos to what you guys are doing in St. Charles City. I know there are a lot of issues that need to be addressed before we even look at building data centers, but we've got a couple seconds left. Where can people find out more about you, Justin Faust, your campaigns, what you're doing, or even your business with State Farm?
Yeah, you can go on, my email is justin@myagentstl.com, or you can go www.myagentstl.com. That's my State Farm. I do not go push my business as much as I probably should. I spend a lot of time on the city council front, but, I spend a lot of time in the nonprofit world. So I would follow me on social media. You can go look me up on Facebook. I'm pretty proactive on that. I love to celebrate our younger generation. And because if you do not get them involved, then you're going to be way behind. But just like my parents got me involved at a very young age, that's why you see me stepping up. If you do not have good people stepping up these positions, bad things will happen. And I truly believe that. And, I'm proud to be born and raised in St. Charles. So like I said, you can follow me on Facebook. I don't need to push my brand. I appreciate you guys, what you guys do, and having me on here. But St. Charles is going to be just fine. I think we got great leadership. I think we got a great council. Everybody can have their opinions on how things happen, but the realization is that it takes tough people to make tough decisions.
Well, Justin, thanks for all you do. And I know you're going to be back to talk about Duck Fest and Oktoberfest all here on St. Charles Patriot Radio. God bless you, and thanks for what you do.
Appreciate you, fellas. Have a good day.
You too, and we'll be back with more talking about the Missouri Legislature in St. Charles County here on SR1 Sundays News Talk STL after this.
Oh, St. Charles Patriot Radio, singing it loud, God's country right here. Make us all proud, from Defiance to Augusta.
From Defiance
Sweet call.
all the way down to St. Charles City, where we just spoke with our guest. If you missed it, go back on podcasts, go anywhere you want to find it. You can find St. Charles Patriot Radio, but you can find our interview with Justin Faust, which is a good one. And it's where we're going to pick up the pieces here in our second segment on St. Charles Patriot Radio, SR1 Sundays, News Talk STL, 1019 94.1. Don't call 911 unless you really need help. But you can call us anytime, 314-912-1019. And Eric, I'm going to call on you because this data center thing really, it's really something a lot of people are fired up about, and rightfully so. But it's also something that I think we need as legislators in the state capitals to be talking about. And this is where, and just hear me out here for a second, because this is an issue for good or for bad. It's not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. I know we just addressed in St. Charles City. They've said, look, we don't need them anywhere here. I know they've got huge issues that they're dealing with water and other economic development and floodplains. And look, I praise them for at least having the courage to say we're listening to the people. Now, I spoke to some congressmen a couple months ago, or about a month ago, and they said a lot of disinformation about data centers is coming in from China. And I'm asking them why. Why would China be flooding America with misinformation on data centers? And they said it's so powerful because this is going to be what controls all of the AI, all of the brains behind the future of our economy. And even education, even the medical field, even the legal field, all of these things are going to be fueled by AI, and whoever controls the data centers controls AI, so they say. Now, on the flip side, we just mentioned Defiance, Missouri, where the August Busch Memorial Wildlife is. Very tainted. We've seen that the government has concealed a lot of information on how tainted and how radioactive or carcinogenic a lot of these areas are. And that was due to something similar to the data centers at the time. At the time, you had ammunition plants manufacturing, you had uranium manufacturing and processing, you had all of these different facilities that were said to be needed. If we were going to be the winners of the war, if we were going to protect America, we needed these different facilities in Defiance and St. Louis. And now we're seeing the impact to our community. Now we're seeing the impact in lives lost, in lives modified, in disease spreading everywhere. So for those that have massive apprehensions about these data centers, I hear you. And I feel you, and I want these answers as well. I think these non-disclosure agreements that data centers or companies are binding governments by is BS, quite simply. I think we need to make sure, and Joe Nicola, to his credit, he tried. I don't know if you remember, Eric, at the end of session, Joe Nicola from the Kansas City side of the state had an amendment towards the end of session that would outlaw non-disclosure agreements in these types of capacities between local governments, the people, and these data centers. So, Eric, is your mind made up? Are you the hell no to data centers? Are you the absolutely we need them right now data centers? Or are you like me, where it really depends time, place, specifics behind the data center, specifics behind water usage, specifics behind electronic usage, specifics behind the adverse effects of these in our community, whether it's sound, soil contamination, water contamination? Are you kind of up in the air and you want to see all the facts before you make up your mind?
Yes, to pretty much all of that. I've had quite a few conversations with, actually there was a lobbyist representing Google, and he came to our office earlier this year. You know, obviously the data centers was the main topic. And the number one thing, and it's funny that that Justin brought this up as well, is transparency. And there are so many unknowns right now. You know, with you brought up the water, the environmental impact. Where are these going to be located? Is it going to be creating jobs? Is it going to be? I've seen a lot of people complaining about now all of a sudden they have this basically like it's in a constant state of twilight, because of all the lights and the noise, and it's just it's so much to to distract from your area in Defiance, for example. When I go and I travel through that area, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
You're in God's country. You're seeing, just nature and all of its
Hey, we've got everything. We've got armadillo, foxes,
and
beaver.
so many different
I know how you like your beaver.
Yes. But so many different types of elevation, so many different, ways of life that have been, all the lives in the just think about if you planted roots there, you're growing your family, and you're looking around like this is the life that I want for my kids. And then all of a sudden, boom, there goes a data center, and it changed everything about it. Now you have all the construction.
Well, let me throw a curveball at you. Not only is there a data center there now, is there a data center, 20 minutes away, 10 minutes away, but now we have this humming that we hear at nighttime, like we've seen in some videos down in Texas and other areas. Not saying this is going to be every single data center, but let's just for hypothetical purposes, you're fine with the data center. You say, yeah, it's 20 minutes away. It's not going to impact us. Now we hear this humming, or years down the line, you hear that there's commercials now. Hey, did you live 20 minutes from a data center? Were they pumping gases into the air that poisoned human beings in X, Y, and Z manner? Because it's not just data centers. There are a lot of companies that are out there that the government tells us it's safe, that the government tells us that we need these things, that the government tells us, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and usher this through. Everything's fine. And then whether it's stuff being pumped into the air, into the soil, into the water, into the environment, we don't know the adverse effects until they actually hit us right in the mouth. So again, there are a lot of issues, whether it's the impact to our grid, whether it's the cost to our electricity, that you have good concerns of.
Absolutely.
But on the other side, I do understand. I certainly don't want China or Russia or North Korea or countries that are contributing to others that want to kill us, because there's this dominance thing in politics. I don't know why, but they want to get a leg up. We've seen what the misinformation can do. We've seen what the injection from China into our public education has done. And that scares the hell out of me. So how do we balance this out?
I don't know if there's really a clear-cut answer. I know we can look at the existing ones, and we can use them as kind of like the test subject here. Also, the advancements in technology. I mean, it's gonna leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
The way they they use the water now might be different on how they use it later. What happens if the technology and the need for the cooling systems or how they need to dispose it is far exceeding our technology on how to actually properly dispose of this waste. Where does that go? Are they just going to dump it in the river and just say, well, yeah, it's contaminated here?
Do you remember that's what they did with all the contamination
from that's exactly
in Defiance?
Yes. And what did they say? Oh, just further down, it's going to dissipate. Further down, it's going to dissipate.
It'll become less radioactive. It'll become less cancerous.
But at the same time, and these are the creeks and the areas that our kids are going to be playing in. All the quarries. I know they fill them with water. They become these big swimming spots. And unfortunately, these are the sites of these massive waste dumps.
Yeah.
And now we're putting our future at risk. And there are so many unknowns. And there are things that we do need to understand that, yes, you don't want to get in the way of the future. You don't want to, stop innovation. But at the same time, are you going to mortgage your future just to achieve these things? And that's where I think really you do need to pump your brakes. But whenever I was talking to them from Google, they were laying it out, like making it sound like, oh yeah, it's gonna be fine. We have ways of doing this and doing that. And I just asked, I said, how big are these data centers gonna be? And I mean, they're talking like 1,000 some odd square.
Well, there's the new one
acreage,
that Governor Kehoe just announced. I don't know if you saw this. Governor Kehoe announced that there is, I think, is it 50 million? I don't know how much in millions they're dedicating. But the size is going to be like 70, from what I hear, 70 Busch stadiums.
And to me, that's insane that they would want to do this. And if they need all this water and they say that it's so safe, then why don't they build the data centers on a waterfront? Why don't they build them offshore? If they're so safe for the environment, then why don't they just do it?
Here we
do
go.
it there.
Missouri secures $15 billion investment from Google in Montgomery County today, and this was May 20th. Today, at a community celebration in Montgomery County, we're just staring at you, Eric.
My bad.
Today, at a community celebration in Montgomery County, Google announced a new $15 billion. Now you're just staring at me reading. This is on the governor's website, governor.mo.gov. A new infrastructure in New Florence, Missouri. The historic investment is built on a commitment to responsibly increase local infrastructure capacity, expand energy affordability programs, and fund thousands of jobs in the region. So just kind of looking over here, trying to see if we got any more information. It says to help prepare Missourians for skilled job opportunities, Google is collaborating with the Construction Laborers and Contractors Joint Training Fund of Eastern Missouri to support the laborers in the Contractors Training Center. The project will enable the center to train more than 2,300 construction laborers, including 1,500 apprentices over the next 2 years. A lot of more information. A lot of more. Listen to me.
That's all right.
I need a data center. This says, in accordance to the Missouri Consumer Protections, Google will continue to pay for 100% of the power for the data center uses and any new infrastructure costs that are directly driven by its operations. To date, Google has contracted to bring more than 1 gigawatt of new generation capacity for Missouri. Through its partnership with Ameren, the company is supporting development of more than 500 megawatts of additional capacity. To further address the affordability, according to this article, Google has announced a $20 million energy impact fund to support programs that drive down monthly energy bills for Missouri households, focused on Montgomery County, Clay, Platte, and other surrounding areas. Again, you can find out more governor.mo.gov.
I don't know. I worry about these 100% funded anything. If you're not paying for the product, or the services, you're just part of the product. And I worry about this. If they're willing to take on such a large, investment in that region, it just begs it. How much money then are they going to be getting?
Well, I want the details, because when we were asking this, Justin Faust, who was just on with us, we were looking into details, and we kept hitting this brick wall known as the non-disclosure agreement.
Mm-hmm.
We kept asking, okay, what impact is this going to have when it comes to our grid? What impact is this going to have to costs for everybody else in the community, let alone other Ameren users? What cost is this going to have on water? And we were told every step of the way, no, this company, they wouldn't even tell us what company it was.
Right.
This company's got it. They're going to pay for everything. Well, let me see the details, because that's where a lot of the sneakery, especially in politics, can be, is in the details. And if you're an attorney, you want to read the black letter of the law. You want to read every friggin' clause to make sure there's not ways that Google or whoever it may be can find a way out or find a way to screw taxpayers.
Yeah, and it's funny that you bring it. I was literally just thinking, instead of, if you really want to, I guess you're going to plant roots in this state, and you're going to be honest, I think you're going to really disturb everything with where we are as a state. Start paying all of our taxes then. You know what I mean? Start covering. Why don't you instead of paying electric bills, just get ready to start paying our hospital bills, and see how confident they are that they'll actually have our best interests at hand.
I wonder if there's any correlation to increased hospital bills in and around these areas of data centers. I would love to know it, because you see all the discussion on power lines. If you live near or around power lines, if you worked on these facilities that were now subject to all of this contamination in St. Charles County, you're going to see more trips to your doctor, because I would like to see if there's any information on that we could provide our listeners here on News Talk. But we're going to come back with some more information in God's country. Absolutely. Like he said. Who is that? Tim Jones?
Yeah,
I think
this
that's Tim
is-
Jones singing
is,
it.
yeah.
What a great
He
voice.
recorded this in the loft in the Possum's Nest.
He did, and that's where we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about some things that are happening in the state of Missouri that are going to be on a ballot near you here on SR1 Sundays, Newstalk STL, St. Charles Patriot Radio. We'll be back.
Through every season in rain or in sun, we're united as one. The battle's just begun. Charles County's flowing like an endless stream. St. Charles Patriot Radio. Turn it up high, God's country forever.
I don't know if that was a gunshot.
Missouri sky from Wentzville to St. Peter's.
Tim Jones is getting wild out here. Yeah, but welcome back, St. Charles Patriot Radio. Nick Schroer, Eric Michael, and you never know. We think we heard a gunshot. Could have been a gunshot, or it could have just been a loud clap.
His voice was just cutting through just so much.
You think so?
So much power and presence.
He's got some pipes on him. Good old Timmy Jones, and he's in, I think, Washington, D.C. this week. Later, you can hear us on Stand and Fight. I am Nick Schroer. Eric Michael, who is in D.C. with him, with Tim Jones, is our co-host, Rich West, who is going to be, from this point on, I'm handing the baton over to him because I've got a little thing that I'm going to be doing over the summertime, going into other areas of God's country to work on getting St. Charles County, getting the state of Missouri at the forefront of all of these fights we're seeing when it comes to growing our economy, growing our population, cutting taxes. And I'm running for leadership to be your next floor leader in the Missouri Senate. So that means I'm going to be dealing with driving, flying all over this place to talk with other senators, possible senators, because they're like 8 different.
Oh man, no, they're I want to say
10
in between 10 to 14
termed out seats, termed out
turned out
senators.
plus potential.
Yeah.
Just depending on the races. So there's a couple close ones, but at least 10, I think, new faces that are going to be gracing us in the Missouri Capitol.
And a lot of these races that we're seeing across the state of Missouri in the Senate, just dealing with the Senate, you've got 34 senators, roughly 10 to 12, I think. Let's just say 10 to 12. Termed out senators, meaning they've served their 8 years, they're out of the building. But a lot of these are not just a one and done. Some of them we know who are going to be there. But in some of the other races, you have termed out individuals, you have people who have primary opponents, and you have some that are a termed out seat that have 5 or 6 people running at the same time. So to effectively get their priorities and get their voice and make sure what their concerns are going to be, we got to go into their neck of the woods and figure out what issues are they dealing with. The upside to that is we're going to be on the road. We're going to be bringing microphones with us. So we're going to bring their stories to you. You're going to get to learn more about them on St. Charles Patriot Radio, on Stand and Fight, on State Freedom Caucus Unfiltered, all part of SR1 Sundays. Well, let me turn back to what is going to be on the ballot. We've got several issues that I'm going to wait for Adam Schnelting to talk about. We're going to try to get the senator from the 23rd in St. Charles County to come on to discuss some of his items, such as Amendment 3. This is going to be the pro-life fix, stopping the gender mutilation surgeries and experiments that we're seeing on kids. That was something he sponsored last year. He's got another bill that he sponsored this year that's going to be on the ballot. But one of the biggest things we're going to see, and I heard earlier on in the week that News Talk had Steve Rupp from Missouri Right to Life on. His prediction was that the Amendment 3 would be on the ballot in November. I'm hearing, and again, at the time of this recording, we recorded on a Thursday. Governor Kehoe is supposed to announce on Friday. So by the time you hear this, you'll probably know when this is going to be on the ballot. So this is kind of us predicting. I think that the income tax will probably be the path to zero will be on the August ballot.
What is the difference between when they would have I'm just wondering what the difference is on when they will be on the August or the November ballot. So
yeah, I don't know what the governor would be thinking. and what factors come into his mind. But in other years, you would have, certain primaries, like if the auditor, who's the only statewide candidate who's going to be running in a race right now, he's got a couple people running against him. I don't know anything about the folks running against the auditor right now. That's the only statewide ticket right now. If you had, a really contested seat like we saw with Eric Schmidt and Eric Greitens and a couple other names, you're going to have a lot of Republicans coming out to vote in that primary. So that might be why you put it on an August one. But again, in this election, you only have one real statewide office holder. You do have a lot of these contested races, and maybe that's why. Maybe that's why the governor would decide to put it on August, is because you're bringing a ton of people out in a lot of these races that are going to decide the future of the Senate. Maybe that's why. Because come November, most of those cases, most of those districts are already going to be decided as a more red or a more blue. Like in St. Charles County, most of the time over the past 10 years, the race is decided in August. So maybe that's why, if they do decide to put it in August, you have a more ferocious type of constituency coming out to vote. Because they like a candidate, they might not like a candidate, and you might want to capture that enthusiasm in bringing them to the ballot, as opposed to in November. Some people might just stay home and say, you know what, it's already decided. I already know that my person did make it or didn't make it. So I don't know. That's a great question. But I know in other years, if you really want the most people to come out, you're going to put it on the November election. Because it could be a governor. It could be a president. I know next election cycle, President Trump will be done. So it's going to be a free-for-all on the Republican and Democrat side in August and in November. So typically those are some of the factors that are going into play when you're deciding, okay, what kind of voters are coming out? Do the Democrats have something that's really bringing them out as well?
Because I know there is an issue with like school board elections and why the importance of moving those. So I just didn't know, like, if what the strategy or maybe their intent was. Because my guess is it's probably at a time when they need the most voter outcome to really, especially if it's something very important, that they want to have the true voice and not just imagine if they had this on the ballot in April.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it would be.
And you only had
completely
8 to 10 people.
Right.
8 to 10% of the registered voters. Think of how ridiculous that is.
Yeah.
If you have 8 to 10% of your family members coming to a family reunion,
right.
It's a failure.
Yeah.
Or maybe not, depending on your family.
Yeah, that's true. You have some dysfunctional ones.
But think of the Cardinal Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Think over the past couple of years, even though it's an empty stadium, you probably have about 25 to 30% of that stadium is filled.
Yeah.
Think about 8 to 15% of that stadium being filled. Almost every seat's going to be empty.
Right.
That's why it's so important. And this is one of the clips I'm going to play for you. Even though he is in Washington, D.C., he was the one. We had Senator Schnelting on, I think it was Senate Bill 1002, on moving the elections. This is a bill that I had last year. I had the broader bill this year. And Senator Schnelting, with his military mindset, was able to focus and find a path to get this done. Now, granted, it's not statewide, but it's moving in St. Charles County school board elections from April to November. And this was on the final vote in the Missouri House. Our very own Richard West carrying this bill and getting it across the finish line.
From St. Charles, you're recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Senate substitute for Senate Bill 1002 be truly agreed and finally passed.
The gentleman from St. Charles has moved that Senate substitute Senate Bill 1002 be truly agreed and finally passed. Mr. Clerk, please bring the bell and open the board.
And they did. And the vote came through, and it was victorious. It's now on the governor's desk. So if you think it's very important to move our school board elections in St. Charles County, especially if you're listening to the show as a citizen, as a voter in St. Charles County, would you rather have 8 to 10% of people coming out to vote on something so important as your school board, your curriculum, where you're using this money that should be dedicated to students? You want to keep building Taj Mahals when kids still can't read, can't write, can't add? Or do you want to get back to the basics? And do you want to require more people to come out and vote in these elections? Move them to November, where statistically we know more people will have a say. More people will be paying attention. And it's going to be a hell of a lot more than 20% of the people coming out to vote.
Yeah, I think it's critical that that you have the true voice of the people instead of just a small minority of them. The school board elections being held at the time that they are currently, basically it equips the school board of people that don't actually represent the values of the places that they represent, and all of the gerrymandering that the racial stuff and all of our votes are going to go. So they know that changing the votes there can impact elections, but then they try to say this is a nonpartisan election time. It's our fiscal year starts, and we need to have the people in place before yada yada. And yet, every time and time again, these people are they're controlling the outcomes and the situations for children that they don't have the best interests at heart. The parents have gone to these school board meetings and they were labeled as terrorists.
Yeah.
Because they didn't agree with how things were being done.
You had parents in Virginia that were arrested when they were speaking out at what happened to their very own children, their daughters who were put in a locker room with a biological male that they found out was actually assaulting people in a neighboring district and was just cycled through like a bad priest in my church.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. So instead of dealing with that, they actually created more victims. And we're trying to create a better future. And I don't think that these elections in April are allowing the people that are putting kids in there.
They're challenging it already.
Yeah, of course
the Democrats have said that, no, they like it how it is. I bet you like how it is because there's still porn in our schools. There's still all of these rainbow flags talking about sexuality. I don't want my kids in grade school or high school looking up to a flag that's not an American flag and say, what is that? Well, that's about LGBTQIA+. Well, what does that mean? Don't just tell me those letters. What does that mean? It's about sexuality. It's about sexual perversions or sexual preferences. Yeah. That's not something that our kids should be learning about.
No.
And look, if you want to teach your kids that, do it in your own home.
Yep.
If you want your taxpayer dollars to go to a teacher to teach them about what is two-spirited, what is queer, what is transsexual, what is transgender, guess what? If you want to do that, let parents have an opt-out.
Yeah.
Let parents not only have an opt-out of that class, but an opt-out of that school by passing universal school choice.
Yeah, they started hiding when they were going on field trips to these places where they were having drag shows.
Yes.
And that's something that I do not agree with. If I'm trusting...
That was actually happening in mid-Missouri.
Yeah.
In mid-Missouri just a couple years ago.
And it's terrible, too, because I'm a product of public schools. I love that my kids are also going through the public school, but at the same time, there are times when the public schools fail the individual child's needs. School choice would actually levy a lot of that too. I really believe that if we want to tailor our the trajectory or the education to best benefit each child, then you have to have school choice.
Yeah.
And if public schools are so great, then people are going to continue choosing these.
Well, guess what?
Schools
in the free market. What does choice? What does that do? It harnesses the person, the consumer. In this instance, it would be the kids and the families with the opportunity to choose what's best for them.
Yes.
And then you get all of the interests that are out there looking for your money. That would be the schools. When you're not choosing one and you're choosing the others, the one that's not receiving that money, like a business, would say, what's going on here? Let's listen to the consumer. Let's find a way. There's a famous commercial now of this new owner of Burger King saying, we listened to you. We fired that king, that creepy guy. We're going to start implementing new food, real food. Steak and Shake has done the same thing. Hey, beef tallow, we're using beef tallow. We're using grass-fed, no non-GMOs. when you put that into schools, when you put that into the education system, the actual choice, implement the free markets, the consumer, we the people, the kids, the families, they're the ones that are going to benefit. And we're going to talk about this so much more because that's going to be one of my top priorities going into next session is universal school choice. Well, it's been real. It's been awesome. And we'll be back with you. Rich West and crew will be back with you next week here on St. Charles Patriot Radio.